And welcome to Connecting the Dots podcast with me, Samantha Garner, and
Dr. Luke Roberts.
Dr. Luke Roberts. I haven't got a flashy title. This is our new podcast, and we are hoping to interview loads of amazing intellectual people. And so we thought what we do for a first podcast is let you get to know who we are and how fabulous we are and why you should listen. So, first of all, let me tell you about me. My name is Sam Garner. I live in South Devon, which is lovely, but a bit busy during holiday season. My background is I spent a lot of time working in the corporate sector in sort of project management, and then I moved into education when I had my children. And I got on very well with sort of children who had additional needs. So I moved into special educational needs and inclusion. Then I went freelance. And for the last 15 years, basically, I've been working in a wide variety of roles. I've qualified as a mental health professional. See, I don't even know the word. And I am an absolute lover of self-determination theory and cognitive behavioral therapy, and very fascinated with how people think and why people think and how we can change how we think. And I met you, Luke, what, about 10 years ago at a conference, I think it was, on bullying, I think it was, wasn't it? It was.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. But obviously we don't look old enough to have been doing it that long. But Luke, introduce yourself.
Thanks, Sam. Hi, I'm Dr. Luke Roberts, and a little bit about me. I probably started off in my world of work looking at evaluation. So, how do we work out the value of things? And one of the earliest projects I worked on was looking at bullying in schools and what does it really take to address the needs of students, parents, and staff when bullying occurs. And so I was quite passionate around ensuring that young people had their voices heard from the research that I was doing at the time. And so I was really fortunate to become one of the first restorative justice coordinators in the country, working in education. So a lot of my early work, leaping from kind of theory to practice, was how do you facilitate conversations between people who are often very upset and very angry? And I think I was quite good at it because over time, I had lots of people ask me like, "How do we do this? How can we do what you do?" And I realized it wasn't about me. It was about understanding your values and your process. So very passionate about ensuring that young people are given the opportunities to thrive. But
Mm,
that also took me a bit like you, Sam, into different workplaces and different cultures
mm,
to understand conflict there. And I was very interested in why do the things we think that matter in organizations don't last. And so that kind of piques my curiosity. And so I did an MBA to understand innovation in organizations. Didn't get the answers I was looking for there. So did a second master's in educational research. Still didn't get the answers I was looking for there. So ended up doing my PhD. And I think I got some of the answers I was looking for. So my wife has said, like, are you a perpetual student because you need to stop? You know enough now.
yeah, yeah,
So there's that aspect. And I think also kind of a bit like yourself, Sam, very interested in how do we start to understand why people think the way they do.
yeah.
But for me, I'm interested in what are the systems that influence our thinking. And so my PhD was looking at complex systems and how those systems both can enhance our lives, but also hinder them as well.
Yeah. And you know, I laughingly refer to us as Pinky in the Brain. Like you're the brain, the academic one. I'm very the practical one. It's sort of and at sort of ground level. And what we do is we'll have great conversations where I'll say something like, blah, 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 blah. And Luke will go, what you're trying to say, Sam, and put it in a really intellectual level. And then Luke will say something really academic and intellectual. And I go, what you saying, Luke, is it's just a pile of pants, isn't it? That's absolutely what you're trying to say. So we thought, We think we're hilarious. We think we're super intellectual. And so let's take this so other people can listen and watch and see how marvelous we are.
Yes, indeed, Sam. So I think one of the things you didn't mention was
Uh,
that you are an author.
I am an author. I have written a book. Isn't it funny? Because I'm really pants at selling myself and stuff I've done. I've written a book, Good Foundations, Mental Health in Education. And it's about getting it right day to day rather than bringing in fabulous innovations and intervention programs. You need to get it right at the ground level, and then a lot of issues won't actually exist. And back at you, look, you have written a book, have you not?
I have indeed, Sam. So I wrote, following my PhD, I was lucky enough to be asked to write a book, and all the feedback was like, don't make it academic.
Yeah.
Make it something people understand. So the title is Leading Schools and Sustaining Innovation, How to Think Big and Differently in Complex Systems. So that title might not have met the mark, but what I've had is some really lovely feedback from readers saying that they really enjoyed how accessible the ideas were.
Yeah.
So I felt like I hit the brief on that one.
Yeah, absolutely love that. And I think a lot of conversations we've had and things we think because we're very aligned with it. I think that's going to come out when we interview other people because we have got some fabulous guests coming up. And that's what we wanted to do with the podcast as well, isn't it, Luke? Is interview some of the great people out there and connect the dots, as we've called it, between people and systems because they
Absolutely.
are, you can't really separate them.
No, no, definitely agree.
So we're going to have a format of the podcast. So we thought, right, let's do it with each other, what that format is. And one of the things we're going to do is ask each other, what excited you this week? What new little bit of learning excited you this week? And I've already forgotten what mine is, but I did write it down. So, what excited you this week, Luke?
I think what excited me this week, apart from my daughter being able to do a forward roll at her gymnastics class, which was a big win, around that one, I think what's excited me is the way in which we're starting to see AI have major benefits for people. So the thing that excited me was I know like lots of people say AI is scary, but there was a woman with motor neurons disease
Mm,
and her voice was electronic and they managed to find a recording of her early voice and the AI has now synthesized that. So she's had her voice given back to her.
yeah,
And it's just this wonderful moment where technology has a real meaningful purpose.
yeah.
And she said, like, I forgot I had an accent, because she'd been listening to this electronic voice for so long. It was just like just a really brilliant human moment where things can be different and things
Yeah.
can be better.
I think that's something you and I frequently talk about is this technological panic and just against all things AI. And it's a question, well, everything's got good and bad with it, and you have to accept that. And the benefits of it are huge. It's certainly enhancing my life in positive ways. So I think that's great. Yeah. What excited me this week? I like learning just new little tidbits and things. And I'm a bit of a nightmare, actually. I have so many books I want to read, and I have signed up to like a summary of books thing because it means I can read them more and I struggle with the patience to read the whole thing. Obviously, I've read your whole book, Luke, cover to cover, that goes without saying. But I
Mm.
heard about something called the Stockdale Paradox, which was named after a gentleman who was a prisoner of war. I think it was in Vietnam, and he was Mr. Stockdale. And he survived by acknowledging where he is but also being optimistic about the future. So they're saying that you need to be successful sort of by acknowledging where we are is rubbish, where we are isn't great, but we can still be optimistic about the future and feel hopeful about the future. And that I quite like that. And that for me links into a lot of other psychological theories that I particularly like self-determination theory and Victor, what's his name, who did the man's search for meaning. Is it Frankel? And he did that book about being in a concentration camp, and the people that survived the longest were the ones that helped others and had purpose, sort of an optimism, which was great. So I was quite excited by that. I like finding out posh names that I can quote and sound clever.
Okay, go
That
with
does it for
it.
me. Do you know what, Luke? And okay, another question here. What is something about you that would surprise other people to find out? Or something that's a little bit different? Something you've done, maybe not professional.
I think the thing that tickles me most is like when people realize how big of a Batman fan I am.
Yeah,
And so yeah, I'm making sure my children watch the Lego Batman movie. That's their entry into the world of Batman. I took them to see the Batman exhibition that was in London earlier this year. So I've got some awesome pictures of them like around the Batmobile. So for me, um, I think sometimes like everyone goes like, he's really into like conflict resolution and systems and stuff. And then like this passion for why like Batman is the greatest superhero of all time really catches people off guard.
it is. You told me that the other day, and I'm like, oh, okay, random. Yeah, like it. I like that one. I think mine is I'm actually a classically trained pianist, and that's what I went to university to do, and that was my thing was music and piano. I'm absolutely rubbish now, nowhere near as good as I was, but yeah, I think that quite surprises people. Okay, so the plan is we would then have this section where we talked to our guests, and obviously this is the intro. So, and then what we would do is do a quick fire segment where we ask our guests quick fire questions. And so we said what we're going to do is ask that of each other. Now, I was hoping to have a bit of time to think about these in advance, and I didn't. So this is going to be interesting and off the cuff, as it were. Okay, Luke, one person who changed your perspective on success.
Um, I think it was Professor Tony Booth, who did the Index for Inclusion. Um, he was talking to like when I was interested in bullying and the whole school approach. I was really fortunate. I bumped into him in a cafe and just sat down and started talking to him. And it was one of those like those conversations where your life changes in the space of like 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Because I'd worked in local authority, I'd worked with schools, kind of say like we need a whole school approach to really address this issue. And he went, "What do you mean by whole and whose approach?" And it was like, where you're just like, I have never thought about that."
Mm.
And it just like I think he could see that like he visibly disrupted my whole way of being, and he was kind enough to put me back together. But in the space of that one conversation, he really made me think deeply about what is it that we really want to change, and that those things are always interconnected to other things as well.
Mm.
So I don't think I ever saw him again after that, but it was just one of those
Yeah.
like he was in the cafe. I was like, "Oh, are you?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Can I join?" And then yeah, so that was he changed my view of what success means to be successful when we're thinking about organizations and people.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Okay, so mine is also a random person I met on a train going up to London or back from London, and I don't even remember his name, which is terrible of me. But and he was a Swiss psychologist, which I mean, of course, if you're going to be a psychologist, you have to be Swiss. And I was saying about how I want to make a difference in the world and make a difference to people's lives. But it's very, very difficult. And sometimes you can feel overwhelmed by the lack of change that you are making. And he said to me that there's a theory, and he told me the name of the woman who has this theory, and I'm so pants with memory. I can't remember her name, but he said she has a theory that throughout history, Only 10% of the population were sort of active thinkers and active changers. And only 5% of those actually were actively trying to make the world a better place, right? And I said, well, that's really quite depressing that it's only 5%. And he said, no, how you have to look at it is that that 5% is needed to maintain or stop the total decline. Okay, so that 5% is needed. So whilst you are not massively making a difference, you might feel like it, the stuff you are doing is part of a group collective to stop massive decline.
Mm,
And I thought, I like that
mm,
actually. And so sort of changing that perspective on, I think that, and I'm big on cognition and perspective, and why we think is that I'm not making a difference, but actually I am because I'm stopping things getting worse in a small way, however
mm.
I can. So I thought that was quite nice. Wish I
Yeah.
could remember the name of the woman. And if somebody's listening and knows, please message me and let me know so I can acknowledge it. Okay, one system you can't live without.
Ooh, I think that would be a system of chocolate. Um,
Do you know, amen.
I think it's really important that we
Yeah.
have treats in our lives, and I do love chocolate. So that is a system that I can't live without.
Do you know what? I was thinking, I haven't got a clue the answer to this question. I'm going to wait and see what intellectual thing Luke comes up with, right? And then I'm going to go, yeah, and that's going to trigger a real intellectual thought in me. And then you were like, chocolate. I was like, hell yeah, let's just go with that. Yeah, I think chocolate is a thing. Okay. Is success more about the person or the system?
Ooh, I think it depends how we define success. And so we can have personal successes in systems that don't enable us to thrive.
Yeah.
But I think where the combination of the two come together, that's where we go to the places where things can change dramatically and importantly for people as well. So I think I'm probably going to reject the question, Sam, and
Okay.
say
Yeah.
you need both.
Do you know, I think we might need to change this question because I'm like, it's both, really, isn't it? Like individual people can do brilliant things, but when they do brilliant things, they're changing the system. And people as a system can change as a group, but their individual things they bring change the system. So I think we can collectively decide that's a terrible question, a really crap question, and one that maybe we need to just take out for future
Well, I
or
think
change.
we hold your fire for a second, Sam. So I think there is something like so some people would say like, no, I'm the catalyst of change. So success comes through me.
Okay.
And I think for other people, they would say that the system is the team around them. So again, we're back to how we're defining both success and systems in this instance. I think there is something also to say about in terms of individuals. Sometimes they may mistake their personal success for not recognizing it was a team effort.
Oh, 100% with that. 100%. And I've just been reading about that in another book summary I read about humble leadership and, acknowledging. I saw Elizabeth Warren, who's an American senator, and she said, all this concept of self-made millionaires, and it's like, well, who paid for the roads that your employees get to work on, and who paid for the education that your employees got, and who is the medical system that does your employees that enables this success, and just this concept of actually what is self-made and how much are you self-made,
Mm.
which could lead into a whole other discussion as well about privilege, but we won't get onto that right now. Okay, so the most important connection you would like listeners to make from
I
these
think
podcasts?
for me, it will probably be helping to make the connection that systems are dynamic
Yeah.
and we are part of the energy that the systems that we want to change have. And I think there's often this, what I've seen is that people tend to see themselves as separate to the systems they want to change.
Yeah.
And my experience has been that is never the case. So often we are in the systems that we want to change. So let's make sure that we can find ways to keep that connection going throughout the podcasts.
Yeah. Love that. I think mine would be is that you have to understand to change. And I just think in a very divisive world that we're in at the moment and cancel culture, if you want to make effective change, you have to understand and have alternative perceptions to make effective. You can't force change for in order for it to be effective. So that's something I'd like to understand that connection.
Mm.
And finally, okay, if you could travel back in history and witness one event, what would it be? You can't change it, you can't influence it at all. You would only be able to witness it.
Mm.
I'll tell you mine while you think.
Yeah, you go for it.
Mine is the JFK assassination. And not because I want to see him die, obviously, but I would want to look at the grassy knoll. I would want to be there. Was there more than one shot from two different directions? And just to have that, to see it, because it's like a whole conspiracy theory, it's a whole like myth thing around it, and lots of theories. I would like to see that to know if I could.
Mm. Okay. I think for me, Sam, it'd probably be something around Alan Turing, who was the British, absolute genius, who changed the modern world.
Yeah.
And his moments of discovery, like whether like he imagined the first computer, like the Turing test that we talk about with AI now, like it all leads back to him. So like just one of his moments of discovery, just to see what his reaction was like
Yeah.
when like you're holding thoughts that will echo down into the future. And like just what was he like? Was he having a coffee? Was he like eating a sandwich and going like, okay, I will visualize how computers will have this ability to connect with humans and different forms of intelligence. Like just what was he up to? Like what, yeah, I'd just be fascinated just to watch that
What if
process.
he was on the loo having a poo, Luke, at the time? Would
Then
that
that
disappoint you?
I think then I would know that there's a somatic aspect that is often underappreciated in having great thoughts, Sam.
So it's a process and it's something maybe you should start doing more is maybe we should no,
I'll
I'm going to
get
move
my
on from this. This is deteriorating quite rapidly. Okay. And what are you most looking forward to with our podcast? So, we've got a lot of guests we've already got planned coming up, and we've spoken about guests we want in the future. We're kind of going to do education first of all for the first batch, and then we're going to move into other sort of sectors within the industry. What are you most looking forward to with this podcast that we're going to do?
I'm hoping the critique actually, like
Mm,
I don't want people to just go like, here's my great idea or this is what I'm interested in, without it standing a bit of, criticism and like,
yeah,
well, are there other ways to do it? Are you really sure? And I think some of the speakers we've got will definitely be up for kind of here's the challenge or here's the pushback, Luke and Sam, in
yeah,
terms of why you're saying what you're saying. So I'm really looking forward to it, that experience.
yeah. And I'm looking forward to learning new things. I love learning new things all the time. But I'm also looking forward to saying, okay, well, how can people use this in their day-to-day life? How is this actually useful to us? Because I think sometimes in the whole world of academia, it can be a case of that's great, but what does that mean to the man on the street?
Mm.
And how can they use that for themselves? And yeah, It'd be lush. So this is our quick intro. Luke, is there anything else you want to say?
Just looking forward to what is to
Yeah.
come.
I think it's quite exciting. Our discussions will be recorded for posterity. Thousands will study it in the future as, life-changing sort of podcasts and go, it was Luke and Sam that changed everything. Maybe, if anybody wants to leave money to us in their will as a result of connecting the dots, changing their life, whatever, we're up for that, aren't we?
Okay, Sam.
But okay, thank you, Luke. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this introduction. Please subscribe to us if you liked it. If you didn't like it, listen again because you didn't obviously realize how brilliant it's going to be, and then hit the subscribe button. Also, if you have some guests that you think would be really, really good for us to talk to, or you'd like to be a guest, do get in touch. In the meantime, it's goodbye from me, Pinky. Goodbye.
It's goodbye from me.
The brain. Take care of yourself, guys. Thanks. Bye bye.